Hello, everybody. This is Baba MQ, MZ, and I am one of the elders of the Raising Awareness Group. And I'm here today to present to you a pictorial cultural view, a snapshot, so to speak, for BAK2 Expanded Edition, which was written by Doctors Tdka and Ife Kilimanjaro. As you guys know, this is one of the four, I think I got that right, four books, five books of over 1,000 pages. This particular book, BAK2 Expanded Edition, has 1,050 pages. So it's subtitled as United States Birth, Development, Decline, Regression before the Leap, and the Passing, 1607 to the present. So today I'm going to just do a snapshot of the book. I'm going to read from the book, pages 413 up to 419. Should be no more than 10, maybe 15 minutes. Um, the idea of this whole thing is for you guys to see with vision, with visuals, how the cultural climate was back in the day. There is some pictures and some short video included as I read and narrate the book. So yeah, some of the highlights would be. Well, first of all, let me say this. I'm devoting this particular snapshot to the era of the 1800s, early 1800s to circa 1900, and the book pages would be 413 to around 419. Some of the highlights of this particular era would be the Civil War, ending of the Civil War, Jim Crow, the so-called racial integration of the races at that time, more than likely, most likely mulattoes in their role, Creoles as well. Um, the pictorial and the visuals will be really centered around the Gulf area of Louisiana, Mississippi, the Gulf states, where a lot of our, you know, manufacturing activity and shipping activity and trade activity was centered with the new the so-called new nation of the United States. Um, as you guys should know, right around January of 1861, New Orleans ceded from the Union after the Civil War. They wanted to have their own, they wanted to be autonomous. Um, about I think it was less than a year in 1861. The United States sent troops and actually militarily invaded and conquered New Orleans in Louisiana, took it back, brought it back into the Union, and for that period of time, the Africans, mulattoes, Creoles, anybody else that was down there that was enslaved, felt freedom for a short period of time. Shortly after that, um, the political situation with the Europeans, the Democrats, the Republicans, they decided to pull the troops out of the area. And as you know, Reconstruction was pretty much in on its way, and the rise of the KKK, the European became more violent, and everything else. Lynchings and everything increased, and until we see well, actually, when the troops came out and they found that the Africans, the slaves, the Africans actually found that they were on their own. This is when the Southern Europeans started flexing their muscles. So, and this is where we're going to stop. So, I want you guys to hope it's something that you guys can see that will be beneficial. Adding the visuals, adding the pictures, adding the short video as I narrate the book, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And peace. Take care. Hi, everybody. This is MQMZ, and this is the narration for the book BAK2. Um, and I will be starting on page 413 and ending up somewhere around 419. Um, And and then of course, obviously, the pictorial and the visuals will be accompanying my narration. All right, so starting at 413. It was not until the end of the Civil War in 1865 that one of the economic systems, slavery, was abolished and the entire nation was organized around capitalist industrial production and the capitalist economic systems. Africans were identified, burned out of their homes, conquered, captured, branded, forced marched from the interior of Africa, sometimes up to 1,000 miles, held in filthy cage dungeons, packed on ships, mass transported to the eastern and western hemispheres, and sold like common cattle to work to death for Arabs and whites. These brutes write the history, so they call this Holocaust a trade. Almost all of them are dishonest intellectual mercenaries on the payrolls of historical enslavers, so they carefully mask the scope and magnitude of the damage done to generations unborn. It is understandable given their history. Louisiana was seized by the French, handed over to Spain in 1763, reacquired by Napoleon, and then sold to the United States, purchased with money gotten from enslaving Africans and working them to death. It became the center of the largest enslavement of Africans in the Southwest and flourished only after enslaved Africans were forced to cultivate sugar and then cotton, among other things. Enslaved Africans born in the United States, slave importation started decreasing in 1810, supplied most of the labor. Importation as a source of free labor was replaced by forced breeding because it was more profitable. However, the profits obtained from slave importation were phenomenal since enslaved Africans could be purchased in Africa for less than $55 and sold in the United States for between $900 and $2,100 in their primes. Profits obtained from a single ship transversing the Golden Triangle Passage averaged greater than 360,000, even though as many as 1 in 3 of the enslaved Africans died during the Middle Passage. Commodities, cotton, tobacco, Bibles, and guns were the cargoes on the other legs of the triangle. Between 1790 and 1860, there was no mechanical innovation of any kind to speed up the harvesting of cotton. Common argument that slave labor was less efficient than free labor is a dogma most historians and economists have accepted. They believe that free people, motivated by cash wage, would work harder and smarter from coerced workers. This uncritical acceptance means that society never has to resolve the struggles between productivity and freedom. However, free labor motivated by a wage never produced the same amount of cotton per hour of picking as enslaved labor did. Slave labor camps were more efficient producers of revenues than free farms like the North. Under a pushing system, enslaved people were required to pick a certain amount of cotton. The formula often varied from one plantation to the next. Should they not meet the minimum, many would receive one lash for every pound below the minimum. Enslavers obsessed with getting crops to the market were not interested in hearing about recovering from childbirth or gynecological problems. Cotton picking increased because quotas rose. People were forced to meet higher and higher quotas. Overseers were selected for their hardness. Surveillance and physical intimidation in the fields, severe punishment. Some people tried to help slower ones meet quotas, but enslavers usually made rules about cooperation and violently enforced them. Picking all day until late at night, even by candlelight, enslaved people had to disassociate their minds from the pain that racked their stopping backs, from blood running down pricked fingertips, from hands that gnarled into claws over a few short years, from thirst, hunger, blurred vision, and anxiety about the whip behind and before them, the threat of torture. Using torture, enslavers extracted an amount of innovation virtually equal to, in a numerical measure, to all the mechanical ingenuity and all the textile mills in the Western world. Beatings were not only reserved to increase productivity, enslaved Africans would beat if they lied, if they told the truth, if they resisted, if they didn't resist. They beat people to a sewage jealousy. Whipping was a gateway form of violence that led to creative levels of sadism. In sources that document the expansion of cotton production, you can find almost any tool sold was used as an instrument of torture. carpenter's tools, chains, cotton presses, hacks, hackles, handsaws, hoe handles, irons for branding livestock, nails, pokers, smoothing irons, single trees, steel yards, tongs. Every modern method of torture was used at one time or another. Sexual humiliation, mutilation, electric shocks, solitary confinement in stress positions, burning, and waterboarding. Enslaved black folk had no one to call upon for help. They prayed, sang, and cried. Still, they had to get up and work themselves to death for nothing the next day or literally be beaten to death if they refused. There were no allies they could call upon to bring about a peaceful end to slavery's expansion. It was a destructive process, full of pain and painmakers. By the early 1800s, virtually all white Americans were now interested in profiting in some way, financially, psychologically, or both, from slavery's growing empire. Survival among enslaved people by means of joint effort would require strong bonds, but in the Western expansion, all strong bonds have been broken. Like the earlier Middle Passage, the journey along the road southwest had given many reasons to feel distrust of their peers. Hundreds of miles walking is no way to live or to die. Many have been talked into coming in from hideouts in the Carolina woods only to find they had been sold running to a trader. Slave traders and slave assistants doctor people up, black their hair, rub their skins with oil to make the prices higher. Traders betrayed plans for revolt. On the new slave labor camps, the pushing system pitted migrants against each other. When picky season came, one person's skill could push another's quota. Small rewards of money or favor convinced captives to abandon incipient solidarity. Among those with goodwill, different origins could be a case of conflict. Many enslaved people spoke different languages. Some people were selfish and grasping. Some were afraid and cowardly. And still others were just plain old rotten. But more saw that survival required a new and different kind of family forged by complete strangers. Survival meant forgetting the past, forgetting, not lamenting the loss of, family and other relationships. It also meant sharing with one another the little food they had, sharing chores in the living space. Not everything was collective. While some enslaved people had some, albeit very few possessions, they also used to mark out the boundaries, forming relationships and structures out of both contention and cooperation. And although scarcer in the Southwest plantations than the Southeast ones, possessions shouted out all the louder because they now had to resort or to assert an identity for people who had not known one since birth. The things people made and claimed as their own even marked tied beyond the grave. Cotton entrepreneurship passed on benefits to the North, expanding credit markets, supporting trade, and making markets for the new textile mills. A financial crisis emerged in 1819 and 1821 in response to white people's successful conquest of half the continent. At the core of this crisis was the question of whether to grow slavery or not, called the Missouri Crisis. By December 1818, when the petition reached Congress for statehood, white settlers had established a thriving agricultural economy based on tobacco, hemp for cordage and sailcloth, corn, and enslaved Africans. White Southerner reps decided that the right to expand slavery was inseparable from any other right they possessed, or any right they possessed, right to property, self-preservation, etc. Northern reps were concerned about having enough political power fuel the economic growth of northern industries. Before 1819, there had been no organized opposition to slavery or its expansion among northern whites. After 1821, northern whites returned to ignoring the rights of African Americans or the consequences of slavery and its expansion for the enslaved. Moral discomfort, political interests did not coalesce into a lasting opposition to expansion. Enslaved people had no one to look to but themselves, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. So rebellion and organized resistance would lead to certain defeat. Whites ruined everything. The Missouri Compromise meant that Missouri was granted statehood with slavery, and Northerners passed the restriction line, which barred slave states being carved out of the Louisiana Purchase about the 36 degrees 36 north latitude. And that will end the reading at this time. at page 419. And I hope that this little snapshot and pictorial backdrop with the visuals will be beneficial to the community and give a different dimension as to our cultural heritage, albeit it could be very, very sad, very it can be very hurtful, it can be very painful at times. But I hope that this is a help to the community. This is MQMZ signing out for the Raising Awareness Group, and with the support of the University of Cambridge Press, with Dr. Tdka Kilimanjaro and Dr. Ife Kilimanjaro, BAK2, expanded edition, Abifu Hodie, Shemem Hotep.